know that feeling when you check your bank account and instead of panic, instead of that quiet dread you've been carrying around for years, you actually smile? Not because something went on sale or because you got a surprise deposit, but because you genuinely don't have to worry anymore. Most people reading this right now have never felt that, and I want to talk about why. Because here's the thing. Every financial guru on the internet is going to tell you the secret is hustle, work harder, earn more, start a side business, wake up at 5 a.m. And look, I'm not saying none of that matters, but what they never talk about, what nobody talks about, is the moment when the game completely changes, when the rules you've been playing by your entire life suddenly stop applying to you. That moment has a number, and that number is $1 million. And no, I'm not talking about what it does to your bank account. I'm talking about what it does to your brain.
My name is Nico, and this is Nico Decodes, the channel where we talk about money the way it actually works, not the way Instagram pretends it does. If you're new here and you're serious about building real wealth, not pretend wealth, not keeping up with the Joneses wealth, but actual financial freedom, hit that subscribe button right now because we drop new videos every week. And if this one hits for you, smash that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. Now, let me ask you something before we get into this. If someone handed you $1 million today, do you think you would actually know what to do with it? Most people say yes. Most people are wrong. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why. And more importantly, you'll understand how to become the kind of person who does. Let me start with an analogy. Picture you're trying to push a massive boulder up a steep hill. And for the first couple years, every single inch of progress costs you everything. Your arms are shaking, your legs are burning, you're out of breath, and the boulder barely moves. And this is what building wealth from zero actually feels like. You save $200 this month, and then your car needs brakes, and there goes the $200. You build up $1,000, and then something comes up, and you're back to square one. The hill is steep, the boulder is heavy, and your brain, your survival mode, scarcity-programmed brain, is working against you every single step of the way. But here's the part that most people miss. At some point, if you keep pushing, the boulder reaches the top. And the moment it tips over that crest, something completely different happens. It starts to roll on its own. That's what $1 million is. It's not just a number. It's the crest of the hill. It's the point where the math starts doing the work instead of you. And once you really understand this, once it clicks in your gut and not just your head, it changes every decision you make on the way there. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Here is the core math, and I want you to actually sit with this because it's going to feel almost too simple. $1 million invested in a broad market index fund, conservatively returning 8% per year, which, by the way, the S&P 500 has historically averaged closer to 10%, but let's be conservative, generates $80,000 per year in passive income. $80,000 without you doing a single thing, without you waking up early, pitching clients, answering emails, or sitting in traffic. The money just makes more money. And for most people watching this, $80,000 is more than they make at their actual job. Let that sit for a second. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the reason most people never reach $1 million isn't that they can't do the math. They've seen the math. They know compound interest is powerful. The reason they never get there is that the journey there feels completely, brutally linear, and it isn't. The first $100,000 is the hardest money you will ever make, not because you're not earning more, not because you're not getting better at saving, but because the compounding hasn't kicked in yet. You're still doing all the pushing. You're still on the steep part of the hill. Studies in behavioral economics, and Charlie Munger talked about this his whole career, show that the first major wealth milestone destroys more dreams than any other, simply because people give up before the math starts working for them. They look at their account going from $11,000 to $12,000 and they think, I'm never going to get there. And they're right if they stop. But here's what the numbers actually look like when you stay in the game. Once you've got your first 100,000, the compound interest alone at 8% is adding $8,000 a year to your net worth without a single extra dollar of contribution from you. That's almost $1 per hour around the clock while you sleep. By 200,000, it's 16,000 a year from growth alone. By 500,000, it's 40,000 a year. And when you hit that $1 million mark, your money is generating $80,000 a year in growth. And here's the number that will blow your mind. Even if you never contribute another dollar, even if you stopped working tomorrow, the math is now working harder than most people do at their full-time jobs. And this is why the second million comes so much faster than the first. Not a little faster, roughly half the time faster. If it took you 15 years to build your first million, and honestly for most average income earners that's realistic, the second million, if you keep your hands off it and let the compounding run, comes in approximately 7 to 8 years. And the third, 5. And the fourth, you start to see where this goes. The boulder is not just rolling on its own anymore, it's picking up speed. The hill has become a slope. The math has become your partner instead of your obstacle. But here's what nobody tells you about what changes psychologically at that number. And this is the real point of this video. Because here's what I've seen over and over again. People who hit $1 million and then blow it. People who reach that threshold and somehow end up broke 5 years later. And there's a reason. When you spend your entire life in survival mode, living paycheck to paycheck, making fear-based financial decisions, choosing the safe job over the right job, staying in the expensive city because you're afraid to move, buying things to feel like you're winning, your brain gets wired to that mode. Scarcity becomes your default operating system, and when the money arrives, if you haven't done the inner work, your brain doesn't trust it. Your brain starts to sabotage it, because your brain still thinks it needs to protect you from loss. And the most common way people self-sabotage at this level, the one I've watched destroy real wealth over and over, is lifestyle inflation on steroids. You finally hit $1 million, and suddenly the nice apartment becomes the penthouse lease. The reliable car becomes the BMW on payments. The home-cooked meals become the restaurant habit. And just like that, the $80,000 a year your money was generating quietly disappears into monthly bills. The boulder goes back over the crest and you're pushing again. You're back on the hill. The number in your account says millionaire. The habits in your life say broke. So the mindset shift, the one that actually matters, is this. The goal isn't to spend like a millionaire. The goal is to think like one. In millionaires, the ones who stay millionaires, the ones who build real generational wealth, they have a completely different relationship with money than the people who chase the look of wealth. For them, money stopped being about security a long time ago. It became about optionality, about choices, about what they call walk-away money, the ability to say no to the wrong opportunities, the wrong jobs, the wrong people, because you don't need the deal, you don't need the paycheck, you have runway, you have leverage. And that's when everything in your career and your life starts to tilt in your favor. Think about what it means to negotiate a salary when you genuinely don't need the job. You walk into that room differently. You sit differently. You speak differently. The company can sense it. And statistically, and this is real, people with financial cushion negotiate higher starting salaries, take on more interesting work, get promoted faster, and quit toxic environments sooner. The money doesn't just compound in your account. It compounds in your life. It compounds in your confidence. It compounds in your opportunities. I've seen so many people stay at jobs they despise for years, not because the work is meaningful, not because it's building towards something, but because they can't afford to leave. They're one missed paycheck away from not making rent. And that financial fear tightens around your whole life. It affects the risks you're willing to take in your career, the business ideas you dismiss before you even write them down, the partners you attract, the conversations you're willing to have. Financial scarcity doesn't just live in your bank account, it lives in your nervous system. And the inverse is also true. When you have real money behind you, you start making decisions from a completely different place. You take the meeting, you pitch the idea, you ask for the raise, you leave the job that's going nowhere. You start the thing you've been putting off for 5 years. Walk-away money isn't just about walking away. It's about knowing you could, and that knowledge changes everything you do. Here's the other thing that changes when you internalize this math deeply enough. Your relationship with small decisions shifts. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You've heard the avocado toast thing 1,000 times, and honestly, that conversation has become exhausting. I'm not here to tell you to stop buying coffee, but here's what I am going to tell you, and it's different. Every dollar you spend before you hit $1 million is not just a dollar. It's the future earning power of that dollar. At 8%, a dollar today becomes roughly $10 in 30 years. So when you spend $500 on something you don't care about, some subscription you forgot you had, a credit card interest charge you never questioned, a night out you barely remember, you're not spending $500. You're spending $5,000 in future money. You're trading future freedom for present nothing. But, and here's where I want to push back on the other extreme, the goal is also not to suffer. The goal is not to white-knuckle your way to $1 million while hating every moment of it. Because what happens when people treat their financial journey like deprivation? They snap, they burn out, they go on spending binges. They develop a terrible relationship with money where it always feels like punishment. The real skill, the one that separates the people who get there and stay there from the people who don't, is learning to optimize your big decisions relentlessly while living comfortably on the small ones. Your housing cost, your car situation, your career trajectory, your investment rate, those are the levers. Those are the boulders. Getting your housing cost under control could be worth more to your net worth over 20 years than a decade of skipped coffees. Choosing the right career path or negotiating one raise aggressively can accelerate your journey by years. These are where the real money is made or lost. And here's the identity piece that I think is the most underrated part of this entire conversation. The people who actually reach $1 million, and I don't mean the ones who got lucky with crypto or inherited money or hit a lottery, but the ones who built it on an average income over time. They made a decision at some point that most people never make. They decided to become the kind of person who builds wealth before they had any. They started acting like an investor before they had anything to invest. They started treating money seriously before the numbers were serious. They started protecting their financial future before it felt urgent. And that identity shift, that decision to become someone who plays the long game, is the real first million. The number in the account is just the proof. So let me bring this all the way back to where we started, that feeling of checking your bank account and smiling. Here's the truth. That feeling doesn't come from the number alone. Plenty of people have high balances and still feel broke because the scarcity mindset never left. That feeling comes from the combination of the math working in your favor and knowing that you are the kind of person who got it there. It comes from understanding that the boulder is rolling and you built the momentum that launched it. It comes from knowing that your $80,000 a year in passive income at 8% isn't a fantasy. It's a formula. It's a calculation. It's a result that follows from a process that you can start today, no matter where you are. And here's the part that will stick with you. The second million really does take half the time. Not because you got lucky, not because something magical happened, because the math is ruthlessly honest. Compound interest doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care that you're starting at 35 or 40 or that you wasted your 20s. It only cares about what you give it and how long you let it run. Every month you stay in the game, every month you keep the boulder moving up the hill, you are getting closer to the crest. And once you tip it over, once the math starts working for you, the question stops being, can I get there? The question becomes, what do I do with the life that money just bought me? That's the real $1 million question. And the fact that you watched this entire video tells me you're the kind of person who's going to find out. If you want more content like this, the real psychology behind why people stay broke, why most people never retire, and what the people building quiet wealth are actually doing, subscribe to this channel right now because that's all we do here. Hit the like button if this opened your eyes to something today, and drop in the comments, where are you on the journey? First 100,000? First 10? Let's talk about it. I'll see you in the next one.